Coming Back is a listener-supported podcast. To support the show and receive weekly grief guidance from me, monthly group grief support calls, and the first look at upcoming books, workshops, and projects, become a patron now at patreon.com/ShelbyForsythia. Just $3 a month gets you access to everything there is to see on Patreon, plus connection to a beautiful group of grievers just like you. Unlock grief support now for $3 a month and support this show at patreon.com/ShelbyForsythia. Thank you so much for listening. What if you could improve your relationship to grief a little bit every day? If you're looking for comforting words and practical exercises condensed into one small paragraph each day, check out my new book, Your Grief, Your Way. It's a non-religious daily devotional that helps you get in touch with your heart and your grief for a full 366 days. Find Your Grief, Your Way now on Amazon, Audible, IndieBound, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere else you buy books. And stay tuned to the end of this episode for a special excerpt from Your Grief, Your Way. Hi there, and welcome to Coming Back, a podcast about coming back to life after death, divorce, diagnosis, and more. Today, I'm talking to Art Shaikh, the founder of CircleIt, a free app that helps you leave a legacy in the world and continue to show up for friends and family by delivering letters, photos, videos, and even flowers to people you love after your death. Think of it as a combination of a time capsule sent by the world's slowest post office. I'm Shelby Forsythia, an intuitive grief guide and author who speaks, writes, and teaches powerful truths on grief and loss. My mom's death in 2013 set me on the path to becoming a lifelong student of grief, and I use what I learned to create a world where grief is welcomed, normalized, and even embraced. Because even through grief, we are growing. Let's get started. Hi there, grief growers, and thank you so much for joining me this week on Coming Back. I'm going to keep the top of the show very, very short. If you haven't voted, please go vote. And if you voted, thank you. Grief growers, I am really thrilled to introduce you today to Art Shaikh, who has invented an app called CircleIt, where you can literally leave notes, videos, audio recordings, and even send flowers to people you love after your death. And so it's such a cool way to leave a legacy beyond your time on this earth, and also to receive legacy notes from people that you love after they've gone too. So Art, I understand there's a lost story behind this app, and we would love if you'd share it with us today.
Absolutely, Shelby. Thank you for inviting me, and nice to meet you. So from a CircleIt story standpoint, right? It's CircleIt is a very personal technology in that sense that the technology, the roots of it goes back to our early childhood growing up. So my father was a captain in a ship in a merchant marine business. So in his line of work, he would travel about 9 months out of the year, and to different countries and all that. And as growing up, we would travel with him throughout the world, mom and all 4 brothers together. So my dad was one of the early adopters of, he had his own camera. And then when the movie camera came out, he was one of those ones who first went in and got those things. And what he really wanted to do was to capture his kids growing up. So a lot of dad and us traveling through the years, right, that captures those memories. So over time, we saw those things, and many of us those forgot. But eventually, fast forward, like 2011 is when we started getting the shoebox full of memories from dad, like all these early childhood memories that he had created, saved. So he took pictures and he wrote letters for his kids. So he did a lot of these things to pass on his legacy. So he had given a lot of those things to me. So CircleIt really came around from that actions of what my dad did, because what my dad wanted to do was to give me a lot of those memories to share with the future generation, which is my nephews and nieces. So he left cards for them. He left letters for them. He left gifts for them for me to deliver out to them in the future. So I think between 2012, when my father passed away, and all from the years since then, I continued to do the things that he wanted me to do as a son, as things he had asked and left for us to do for him. To ultimately to a point where I was looking at a card that he had left, and it kind of just talks about like it was a occasion card in advance that he wrote down, and he put some money in it and a personal message for my niece. So when he looking at that, I'm like, we got to do something with this technology, and somebody has to build a technology that can help people do that. So that is how CircleIt really started.
I love it because there's this inspiration derived from a man who really knew that he wasn't going to be around forever. And I'm kind of curious about where that mentality came from for your dad, because at first it seemed like this intention of, I want to capture memories of my family having a good time, but especially as he got closer to perhaps what was the end of his life in 2011, he was like, and here's the gifts for the nieces and nephews, and here's your shoebox of memories. And there was definitely this knowing of, I'm not going to be around forever. So I wonder where that came from for him.
Yeah, so it's from my dad perspective. He's always believed in this fact that life is short and tomorrow is not guaranteed philosophy, right? Like you got to live life to the fullest moments and everything. So a lot of this that he was doing as he got into his 60s, a lot of this came in because he had so much asset and everything that he had been saving and sharing with people. He wanted to make sure that before he leaves, he gets it out in the hands of the people that really need those things.
Yeah, and there's very much a sense of altruism about it. The things that I make are greater than me, or yeah, you need to receive this message in some way, but in the future. And I love that forward-looking component of it because it, for lack of better phrasing, it's like when you're standing in front of the ocean and you're like, wow, this thing is so much bigger than me. I often have that perspective with time. I'm like, oh, one day I'll die, but then time and the world as we know it will continue on without us. And so it's a very humbling thing to think about.
Yeah, and it's like as we started building CircleIt, I learned a lot. Is just that the legacy and the preservation is a very strong need in people that especially are looking at baby boomers and all. They are really looking at this from an angle, and there's not really a single technology that can do all this in a private and secure fashion.
Yeah, so talk more about that because you went from receiving all of these things at a personal level from your dad, and then he passed away. And then there's the reality or the process of designing the intimate relationship that you had with your dad into an app so that other people can participate in their own ways with their own letters and photographs and audio clips and videos. Video is my favorite part because I love seeing old videos of my mom. And even, this is my other favorite part because many grief growers don't know this, but I used to be a florist, sending flowers. You can send flowers into the future. So how did it go from, this was a thing that my dad did for me and I thought it was really cool and meaningful, to, okay, now we're going to share this with the world through an app?
Yeah, so it's before the sharing it to the world came in the need of actually preserving our own family legacy. So the first stab at CircleIt was just really creating a technology that our own family can use in a private manner. Because a lot of our family members value privacy and they never made it to Facebook. My dad never made it to any of the social media tools and all, and he wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah, so there is a lot of
I would never think of that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of those void was there, right? So, and these things couldn't be accomplished on a social media because 20 years later, you don't want a message from your grandfather showing up on TikTok.
You're correct.
So that is the type of, so I'll tell you this, the type of messages that dad wrote and left, right? Like if you had an opportunity to read those things, those are meant for my nephews and nieces and just them. And if they decide to share, it's up to them, right? Because that's what is wish. So that's really what was CircleIt first thing is first build something a technology that, number one, if I'm not there, what dad has left can still happen because I still have to deliver flowers to my niece that is 7 years old. Her wedding maybe 20 years from now, right? So in order to carry on my dad's wish, I have to be there and alive too. So CircleIt is a technology that takes that completely out of the equation and allows you to basically deliver everything you want for your loved ones whenever you want that moment or whenever that future moment happens.
And that's just so cool to me because that was my first thought and fear in kind of starting to write my own will. I know I only turned 28 years old in August, but hosting this podcast, I know, especially from the guest Kate Manser, who came on in season 2 or season 3, she wrote a book called You Might Die Tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And so in writing a will or some kind of document that's like, here's what to do with my stuff when I'm dead, it kind of depends on other people being alive to carry out those orders on your behalf. And so to hand it over to technology that can do it automatically for you is really pretty cool because it takes it's almost like you've overcome the human hurdle of death in your own kind of way.
Yeah. We basically, I once asked one of the teenagers who was looking at the technology, and I like to ask them and see what they think of it, what comes to their mind. This girl looked at it and she goes, "This allows you to cheat time." I'm like, that's brilliantly put.
Yeah. And I can see how that would be true. And it kind of, it allows you some kind of freedom. I like the privacy aspect because it's not like you're going to be reminded on Facebook of something your dad or your grandmother or your sister posted, 5 years ago, and you get the memory things that pop up. You actually get personal messages from them that aren't publicly available on social media. And so I like that component. But then this other component too of it being automated or independent so that the only person you really have to lean on for how you want these things to go is yourself. And so they're very, very personal for that reason. It's not independent like, I don't need any of you. It's independent as in this message, these flowers, this video, this audio clip, this photograph is coming exclusively from me. And there's not this reliance on another human to carry it out. Wow. Cheat time. That's such a neat phrase.
Yep. Cheat time, and the way we look at, right, is the whole concept of wanting to be there for your loved ones. Whether you are there or not, your love will be there for them in CircleIt, right? So think about all the holidays and occasions. Whether we are there or not, our loved ones and all, what would they do? They miss their parents, they miss their brothers and sisters and family members that have gone, right? So that's the way to be there.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is probably an appropriate time to ask, like, what are the limitations of the app? Like, how far into the future does it go? Where do you source your flower deliveries from? Like, how does this logistically happen as a user in the app?
Number one thing about CircleIt, what we are building, and that your viewers will hear, we are essentially building a technology that is like a Wikipedia, right? Only private, right? That carries everything that you need, and in a free and a private manner for the world. So our goal is to build a technology that will last a lifetime. As long as people care about each other, this technology will exist. But really, CircleIt, the way the technology really works, right, is nowadays, like with help of all the advancement and everything that has happened, all the data that you share with us, we become the custodian. We hold that thing in the cloud for you and for your loved ones in the future, and we deliver it, whether the event has you have a defined date for an event, or whether you tell us what has to happen in the future. So when my grandson gets married, I want him to get this message from grandfather and flowers and cake. That's CircleIt.
So how does that work? Because you can't always predict, like, when your granddaughter's going to graduate or when your spouse gets a promotion or something like that. Like, how do you predict these dates that are unpredictable?
Absolutely. This was a problem that my dad faced, right? He didn't know the dates for the wedding for my niece. Okay. So he gave it to me to wait till the day she gets married. In circular technology, we have a machine learning and a validation based process where we authenticate, validate, and predict the future delivery date. So what happens is if a grandfather creates a card for a loved one, for a grandchild who may be 5 years old, wedding maybe 30 years from now, CircleIt takes that and is now looking and trying to figure out the date when the kid is getting married, which may be 30 years from now. Okay, through machine learning that comes in, through other cards being created by that, the user contributes that information. The grandfather can provide us that date and time, but if the grandfather is no longer there, the technology will work with your family members and your custodians that you have already assigned to make sure the card and the gifts and everything are delivered. So this whole process, we have kind of created this in the way where without any manual intervention, this whole process can happen.
This is just mind-blowing to me. Like, I have never heard of anything like this in my whole life. And also, I'm like, why isn't everyone in the world using it? So I'm wondering how people have experienced CircleIt. If you have some neat stories about reviews that have poured in from people who've received messages or from people who've used it and set up, I don't know, 10, 20 years worth of deliveries of information into the future.
Yeah, so it's like I can tell you about the reviews, but I'll tell you some real stories of the folks that have called me and shared all those things. Like, so I hear a lot of different things coming from different folks on how they're using CircleIt. So we have a mom that writes a letter to her kids every single day, unknown, on CircleIt. Okay, the reason why she does that is because she lost her parents very early in her life. Okay, so she doesn't want her kids to have that in case something ever happens to her. So she told me her biggest fear is dying before kids are of age, grown age. So that's why he uses CircleIt. I have a father and a personal friend who got diagnosed with cancer. During the time when he was diagnosed with cancer, he understood how life can be short. And thank God he's healthy and everything. But during that time when he was battling cancer, he found the news that he's pregnant. His wife is pregnant with the child. And so he started writing journals, not knowing that he'll make it or not through that process. And he wanted the kid to know all the wisdoms that a father could give to his child. So we have seen folks from all sorts, like moms, fathers, grandfathers, who are sharing old pictures, teaching about family values. So a lot of this is really going on. And since CircleIt is so new in the marketplace, how people are using it is evolving. We have just kind of created a really smart mousetrap for you to solve a very important problem, which is time, right? Everything in the world is now. CircleIt is everything about future for your loved ones. Because if you're not there, those that love you will miss you.
Yeah. And oh gosh, I mean, the possibilities in this are literally endless, because I'm thinking as a mother, if you write one letter to your kids every day until the end of your life, you are getting years and years and years and years and years worth of letters. And that's really cool. And even if you don't hold yourself to that strict of a standard, like I have to write one letter every day, even if you do one once a week or once a month or once a year, and it gets delivered to your kids on their birthday or on your birthday or something like that for years into the future, it's like you get to retain so much of them.
Let me tell you a story of a mom, right, who had a tradition of sending cards on Valentine's Day to his son, Joel. And a couple of years ago, Joel was really saddened because that past Valentine was the first Valentine where he never got a card from mom because mom passed away from cancer. Okay. And this is a personal friend and family that I know about. He's a football coach, but grown man crying because he had that tradition with his mom. And I wish CircleIt was built at that time. She could have used it.
Yeah. Because it speaks to this pain of longing. Brene Brown, in her book Rising Strong, talks about there's 3 L's that come up in the face of grief. There's loss, feeling lost, and then longing. And one of the hardest ones that a lot of people kind of refuse to acknowledge about grief is there's this perpetual ache of I am constantly missing someone or something, like this presence in my life, their voice, their stories, their insight, their wisdom,
Mhm.
even their humor. I'm like, here's me. I would probably record a joke and send it 30 years in the future um,
Yeah,
to tell to relatives or whoever else happens to be around at that time.
you'll be surprised what people say. People have saved voicemails from their parents that they will never give up. They want to share that with their loved ones and their generations, right? Like there is a whole amount of storytelling about us and our lives that people want to do, right? And CircleIt is going to give you, is geared to build around just families and loved ones and teaching kids about your generation. And that's why we call CircleIt a generational platform.
Yeah. Well, and why do you think it's so important to leave a legacy? Like, why is there this human desire to go beyond my own life and leave something bigger than myself?
No, it's an absolutely valid question because I mean, I didn't look at what's going on with people before I built CircleIt, right? But when I built CircleIt, I started finding all the reasons why this is all is going around. So one of the most important thing we learned is people want to be remembered and they want to be in the lives of their loved ones and now and in the future. And that is the whole concept of being there, because whether I'm there or not, if my son's birthday will happen, the weddings and graduation and all those things will happen, right? So that is your future proofing yourself in that sense. And if you're there, those cards and gifts, just imagine tomorrow getting a card from your grandma that was sealed and that message 20 years ago. Okay. So just getting that is better than any card you will ever walk in and buy and send to anyone.
Very true, because you know exactly who it came from and kind of the story behind its creation. It was made for you.
It was meant for you and it was intended. Somebody went 20 years ago, effort to make sure that you are loved, right? Like that is what my nephews and nieces are seeing. Okay. Because when I delivered those, I saw what was happening to them.
Yeah. It's very it gives me so many chills to think about, because it's like somebody who's not even here right now on the earth cares so much about what's happening to you in your life today. It feels very, I mean,
Yeah.
you're connecting across generations, but I mean, there's something to be said. I don't know if we're going to jump into the realm of physics here, but like space-time continuum, something's happening where you are allowing people's energy to continue to be transmitted, even though their physical body is no longer here. Their intention and their love lives on.
Yes, absolutely. Because that, and then even with the future generation, right? So all the things we have about us today, all our digital life that is there, one day when our credit card stops working, these things will stop shutting down, right? Those iClouds and things we pay for our 10 gigabyte or terabyte of storage of photos and all will all disappear one day. CircleIt is the way to continue those with your generations in the future, who will come looking for those things for you.
Yeah. And I wonder, do you have any fears about how technology will change? Like how CircleIt will continue to exist or evolve based on technology, or you think the cloud is pretty reliable as a platform?
I can't, before I took on this mission of CircleIt, right? I used to work for a company called Salesforce in the enterprise software world. And so know every aspect of enterprise security and privacy. And my former CEO, Mark Benioff, built an amazing company, right, in Salesforce. And what he built the whole company on the basis of trust and being open and honest with your customer. And he built a company that is now worth God knows, billions of dollars right now, 20 years later. So our intentions when we started off CircleIt also was to build a company that is private and secure. And our job is just one. We want to take everything that you want to deliver to your loved one and make sure they get it in the future. And that is the extent. So that is why we are private. We don't have ads. We don't sell your data. We don't charge you any money too.
Wow. So this is free to use.
Absolutely. For everyone. Yes, everyone. It is absolutely free. And you will, to some folks, your listeners would say, okay, well, what's really the catch? Well, the catch is simple. Somebody still has to pay for all the storage and everything, right? So the way CircleIt will work is in our technology, people will be able to send gifts, flowers, all those things to their loved ones. So the small commission that is generated pays for your storage for that.
Wow. So if I wanted to send flowers to my sister, if God forbid, if I die before my sister, I really don't want either of us to die before each other, but a morbid thing to think about. But if I died before my sister and I scheduled to send her flowers on her birthday for the next 20 years of her life, the commission, a small fee for buying the flowers to send to her, would go to paying for the storage for the cloud.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, there is a lot of services we are going to provide in the future, which right now we have a lot of those under patents and stuff and all that. So my attorneys may not want me to get into the detail, but we're going to evolve this, solving a lot of your life's problems, right? Like some basic things of what happens if I'm not there. I want my brothers to be able to do certain things on my behalf. Those are all the things people would do. This will really evolve into a extension of your will solution.
Yes. Yeah. And I will caution listeners here, don't put anything legal in here. This is for sentiment and legacy and education and wisdom and all these other things. So I would probably, and Art, you can back me up on this or refute it if you want, but I would not recommend putting legal wishes into CircleIt.
That is part of our roadmap. Ultimately, you will be able to create those wills because we look at will has two purposes. You have physical, you have monetary, financial assets, and then you have digital assets, right? We want to be the company you're going to trust to distribute those things for your loved ones.
Oh, that's fascinating. So you're like, we're going to weave this in eventually.
Yes, absolutely. Because this is something that our users absolutely would want, because not everybody can hire those expensive attorneys who are going to come down handing files and videos to loved ones.
Right. Well, and not every attorney really knows how either. They're not software people.
You'll be surprised on how a law firm, in fact, came in and wanted to buy us very early in the stage.
I'm actually not surprised because I think it's a brilliant idea. I've never heard anything like this before. And I'm like, why has no one thought of this before simultaneously? Yeah. So I'm really curious about how exactly the process of CircleIt works. So I've downloaded the app on my phone, and then what happens?
So really, there's two sides to CircleIt, right? So when you come in, you'll have to do the setup, right? So it takes you about 30 seconds to set up and about a minute or so to put in necessary information to get you up and running, right? Once you're in the technology, what it does is once you have you and your loved ones there, this technology will know you and your loved one and all the important holiday and occasions that matters the most to you, okay? And it will then remind you from time to time to create cards for your loved one, and you decide what goes inside. Maybe it is a letter, maybe has pictures in it, maybe it has a video message in it. So you are able to come in, decide who you want to send a card to, pick that person, go to card library, pick from thousands of cards for holidays and occasion or just because that are out there, and whether you want it to be delivered 3 minutes from now or 3 years or 30 years from now, give it to CircleIt, and CircleIt will take care of the rest.
Wow.
So that is how simply the technology works. Something that we are very naturally. So when I think earlier you asked this question, and I through my talk track, I kind of forgot to answer that question, but it's what we really do is the same thing as you do if you were to actually send a card to someone, right? Like go pick up a card, think of a person, write your message, add things in it, and send it. And that's what you're doing. You give it to post office, here you're going to give it to CircleIt.
Yeah, it's literally like having a little digital butler. It's like, here, take this
Yeah,
away and deliver it at another time.
yeah. Some Absolutely, Shelby, and some folks have called it, you're a virtual time capsule. Every card is a time capsule, right? So you decide when that unlocks. I want this card for Christmas, but 10 years from now, okay? Or I want this for somebody when somebody gets married or somebody has a child, those future events happening. You decide.
And I wonder too, if I'm the recipient of a CircleIt, like if I'm the daughter or the granddaughter of somebody who's created CircleIt, will I get a text or an email that says somebody has a message they'd like to deliver to you? Would you like to open it?
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
does the
So
user
we
side look like, or the recipient side?
Absolutely. So if the recipient is on the technology already, they're going to see, let's say you created a card for your sister 20 years out, right? Let's just say. Okay. And so what your sister is going to see, there is a card created for her 20 years out. It's going to come. Okay. But she doesn't know what's in it and who is it from. And that card is locked. So that's the user side of things. And 20 years later, when that maturity and whatever event you have said has to happen in the future happens, then the card unlocks for them.
That's cool. And if they don't have the app, how do they know that something is waiting for them?
It's a brilliant question in that sense because a lot of our users are not even born yet.
Right.
So
Isn't that
what
funny? That's so wild.
So what we are seeing right now is moms, while they are pregnant, right, they are creating cards for their kids to get throughout their life for different things, reminding them one day. A mom told me that she created a card one day just when the son is really going to be a bratty kid, is to show him how much pain she had to go through during the child labor. So, so there's a lot of fun use cases, like a husband who has notorious for missing Valentine's Day and important occasions for wife and being in a doghouse. Now, CircleIt is a savior because he can record messages and cards that actually will matter something to them when 20, 30, 5, 7, 10 years out. These things will start popping.
Right. And they'll come to people's phones or people's emails. I mean, because they don't exist yet. So it's like, how do they? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So the other aspect of it is, as a child who may be not born or even a 3-year-old, they don't have the phones, they don't have any technology, right? When they come into the technology 5, 10, 15 years from now, when they are coming in and connecting with their family, we have this whole smart validation process where we're going to validate you into the family tree. Your family members will approve you, and once you join in, the things that the grandfather left will start flowing to the kid. So everything that is being left for the kid, CircleIt will hold in and will do everything, work with the family to make sure the kid comes in and gets all this stuff. So the way it will work is just we evolve. This will be the technology you come in to get things from your ancestors and loved ones.
That's wildly cool. Because you like get joined into the fold of the family tree. So this technology feels very endless. CircleIt feels like it could go on for forever.
My first name for CircleIt was Timeless. Okay. We couldn't get the domain. It didn't fully explain what we did, right? So we removed it, but we look at that as a timeless connection between you and your loved one, right? That's why we say CircleIt is a technology used to connect with loved one across time.
So now why the name CircleIt?
CircleIt, the name CircleIt came from this whole action, right? Like if this is a holiday, just circle it. That is what we were looking at developing. And early in the stages, I mean, these finding names nowadays is not that easy, right? So we stumbled on that. Then we worked through a long time. I think about a year we spent getting the trademarks and all those things. So because long term, we wanted to build a very safe and secure company that was very sound foundation basis. So we wanted to make sure that all those bases were covered.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and I think, a date on the calendar in the future, just circle it.
Yep.
And that's immediately where my brain landed when I heard of this technology when you showed up in my inbox, and I was like, that's pretty wicked cool. Even dates
Your
years and
family,
years in the future, like post calendar, we're not going to have calendars anymore because paper is going to be obsolete. We'll just circle it.
yeah,
That's probably a lie. I'm making funny predictions about the future, but yes.
your family is a circle, right? You have your circle of trust. Like everything about you is like circle. So we built CircleIt for not for the rest of the world where you have 10,000 people on it and stuff. We built it for 5 or 10 people that matters the most because that's why you're there.
Yes, it's for my friends and family circle. It's not for,
Yep.
the 1.7 thousand people
You
following
won't,
me on
you won't,
Instagram. Yeah.
you won't see much of the Instagram model selling bags and purses on this. I'll tell you that. This technology is where you actually, when you care about someone enough, then you circle it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's just so beautiful. And I wonder, okay, so we've done quite a bit of talking about the platform, and as the person who founded it, I have to know, how are you personally using CircleIt in your life? Who have you sent messages to, or what do they contain?
It's one of those things, right, where it's like the chef doesn't eat his own food, right, at that time because he's so busy cooking. So we have been so busy building this technology, right? And since we put this thing in the marketplace a few months ago, we didn't think too much, right? We're gonna catch, but we're now like 500,000 people downloads in the thing. So we have to work very hard. So the things that I did initially was to create cards for my nephews, but what some of the things that are coming in our technology. So in about October timeframe, you'll be able to through CircleIt, you'll be able to deliver cards and any gift anywhere on the globe at the same time.
Wow.
So those are all the things that because a lot of things that I need to do for my dad is deliver flowers to mom on her birthday in September. Okay, to this. So those are all the things we are building right now to make sure that the world has it in a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and with 500,000 downloads on the App Store too, I'm sure there's demand for new features all the time. It's like, I thought of this and I'd love to be able to do this. And so as the founder, it's like, it's my job to jump on that.
Yeah, it's the interesting thing is that it's not as much as about feature and functions. If you actually will look at the technology, we made it very simple. So my mom, who is in her 70s, can use this technology.
Yeah.
So it is pure about either you wanted to send a picture, you wanted to send a card. It is that simple within the technology. So our goal is to continue to keep this thing simple because a wide variety of the people are coming in all over the globe and all different ages.
Yeah. And yet, this one thread, I want to leave something here for after I'm gone, is the same.
It's every. I mean, I have not met a person that really didn't get it. I mean, usually I when people learn about CircleIt and all, this is what I hear. Like I hear words like, "World need this." I wish my grandparents had this when they were alive. A son who lost his parent in my focus group told me I would give $1 million if I can just get one message from my mom and dad, right? Like these are all things people are grieving about, and CircleIt helps them. So this is why for a very small little company in the early stages back in April, May, before we even went live, I'm getting calls from American Psychology Association. I'm getting calls from Alzheimer's Foundation because they look at how this technology can help all the patients that they have.
Yeah. Because it's a remarkable wish of the dying. When people know they're going to die, they're like, "Oh gosh, I've got to leave something. I've got to make sure I've said what I need to say." One of my very favorite books on grief is called On Living, and the author is a hospice chaplain, and she just goes around and essentially sits bedside and listens to people who as they're dying, and they tell her all these amazing stories about things that they wish they'd done or stories that they would love to tell their kids, but they're secrets that they can't uncover just yet, or they wish they'd taken more time to do XYZ, or that they had somebody to pass a lesson on to. And it's amazing that this kind of technology exists and that you invented it, and that it's going to help people so far into the future. Yeah.
I've seen people from both sides. Like I've seen cancer patients using a technology, but the mission we are after, we want to make sure people get this technology in their hands before they have cancer, when they are healthy, right? Because there is so much storytelling in their life. Their kids needs to learn from them. So start early. So that is why we're working very hard to make sure that people know about it, because the folks that are with cancer and all, they are on this technology. Every time I get a message about thank you very much, or question about somebody making sure, can this really will be delivered 20 years later? And I have to explain, and that is the only business we are in. We're the world's slowest post office.
Oh, and that visual brings me so much joy too. So Art, let people know where they can download CircleIt and where they can find anything else that you'd like to share with us this afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity again, Shelby. CircleIt is available in App Store and Google Play. And just like a startup, we are rapidly improving our user experience. So as you go in, as you adopt this technology, give us time. You will see the things we are going to do and the problems we're going to solve for you. It will blow your mind. And thank you for listening to me.
Absolutely. Well, and we're so very excited that this technology exists. And grief growers, I hope you will download CircleIt on your mobile device for free and start crafting messages for the people that you love in your life as well. I know I'm downloading it on my phone literally right now. So Art, thank you so much for joining us on Coming Back today. And this is just wicked cool. And I can't wait to see what happens for you and for CircleIt and for everyone who's a user of the platform into the future.
Thank you so much. Again, our website is CircleIt.io for anyone that wanting to go there. So again, thank you very much for the time. Really appreciate this.
So that's all for this episode of Coming Back. Thank you so very much to Art Shaikh for coming on Coming Back to talk about how his father's posthumous instructions inspired him to invent CircleIt so that others can deliver notes and more to people they love after their deaths. Art came back by helping his father carry out his wishes after his death, and by creating technology to help others be present for the loved ones in their life after they die. You can download CircleIt for free in the App Store or find out more at CircleIt.io, and you can find that link in the show notes. You can find my new book, Your Grief, Your Way, 366 Days of Comfort and Practical Exercises After the Death of a Loved One now, wherever you buy books. And be sure to stay tuned after the credits for an excerpt from the book. If you'd like to get online grief support for just $3 a month, pledge to support this podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/ShelbyForsythia. You'll instantly unlock access to weekly grief guidance prompts and monthly live calls with me. Our next live grief support call is happening Monday, November 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time. If you liked what you heard today, subscribe to Coming Back on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and tell a friend about Coming Back, because you never know what someone you love is going through. Thank you to Addie Goldstein, who composed our theme music. You can find me on Facebook at Shelby Forsythia Intuitive Grief Guide, Instagram at Shelby Forsythia, or simply shelbyforsythia.com. If you'd like to leave a question or comment for a future show, email me at shelby@shelbyforsythia.com. As always, my dear grief growers, it was beautiful sharing this space and time with you today. I see you, I'm proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world, and I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Coming Back. Now, check out the October 28th entry from my new daily grief book, Your Grief, Your Way. October 28th. Life after someone you love dies can be incredibly lonely. There's an ache to hear from your lost loved one, to know that they're safe and okay, and to reassure yourself that they continue to be with you in some way. If you're struggling to feel or see your loved one after their death, try assigning them a symbol. Birds, butterflies, flowers, songs, numbers, cars, anything is up for grabs. Whenever you see that symbol, greet it as you would have greeted your loved one, and remember something you loved about them. For instance, when I see sparrows, I say, "Hey, Mom," and take a moment to remember her embrace. Whether you believe your loved one is sending you these signs, or you know you're inventing them yourself, the outcome is the same: a moment of hope and connection with your loved one. If this entry resonated with you in your grief, you can purchase Your Grief Your Way now wherever you buy books, including Amazon, IndieBound, Barnes & Noble, and your local bookstore. See you next week on Coming Back.